1.2 billion. So you go ahead, 1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happened?
I'm not sure even Nancy Pelosi knows. She was on with Judy Woodruff. You know, there's this brouhaha going on over some executive orders that Trump put out after the Democrats basically held him hostage to give new relief to Chinese flu shutdown victims. I'm not going to go into all that today, but Judy Woodruff was talking to Nancy Pelosi. I just want you to listen. Judy Woodruff is one of the most reliably left-wing reporters there are. She's mostly on NPR. Yeah, she's on NPR. She's National Public Television. And she is very reliably left-wing, so left-wing she doesn't know she's left-wing, but she dared to ask Nancy Pelosi a question about this. Listen to Pelosi's reaction.
The other point Republicans are making is they are now showing flexibility in money for state and local governments. This is, again, a difference. Democrats want more money. Republicans want a lot less. They are saying they're willing to show flexibility. And they're also saying a lot of the money that was passed in the spring, Madam Speaker, has not even been spent yet.
Well, so if you want to be an advocate for them, Judy, if you want to be an advocate for them, let's know what the facts are.
I'm playing devil's advocate here
to
ask you for your position.
She's playing devil's. That's us, you know, the devil. She's advocating. You know, she's asking a simple question. She is posing. It is her job. It was her job in the days when she had a job in journalism. It was her job to pose to the left the questions from the right and to pose to the right the questions from the left. I was a journalist. I did this all the time. You know, they told it 2 quotes and write it up. You know, 3 quotes and write it up. It was 1 quote getting the facts, 1 quote getting the reaction from the left, and 1 quote getting the reaction from the right. And you got those reactions by posing the opposite questions to the guy. So the left-wing guy, you told them what the right was saying. The right-wing guy, you told them what the left was saying, and they had to argue their point of view. It was like a debate on paper, right? That's the way journalism used to work. Nancy Pelosi is so shocked that Judy Woodruff would ask her. She basically feels she's being an advocate. And they have done this, again, by demonizing the right so badly that they don't even think that they're responsible to the arguments of the right. And as long as they can keep the left in that mindset, they can keep the left insane, which is what it is, because it's not that we on the right are right about everything. We have a very big tent right now, and it is, as I said at the beginning, kind of a mishmash of different points of view. You know, we've got the people, I guess I would fall under the heading of constitutional proceduralism. I want to preserve the Constitution. You've got people who are, libertarians, people who are Christians who believe that there should be more Christianity, even in government. You've got all kinds of people on the right. Not on the left. On the left, you have basically the far left and liberals who think they're still in a party that supports them. Really, if you wanted to be a liberal now, you would become a Republican. Really, if you wanted, really, truly, if you wanted to be a liberal now, you would become a Republican, because we're the only people who still believe in free speech, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Electoral College, the Supreme Court being untampered with. All of those things are beliefs on the right. If you want to preserve the country at all, you would be on the right. But the left is in its own world. The left is in its own world. They created that world. They took over the culture. We haven't yet managed to take that culture back. I hope we will. There's a million reasons why we haven't. There's a million reasons why we don't try harder, why we don't try, especially at the top level where the money is, because there's plenty of people who could be put into that army if there only come some billionaire generals to lead the way, to create venues for us. There'd be more and more of us. But we haven't got that support, so we're fighting this kind of Revolutionary War battle where we're popping up from trees and fighting at the empire of lies. You know, we're fighting against the empire.
Excuse me. spaghetti. I hope she made lots. I hope she made lots of spaghetti. I hope she made lots of spaghetti. I hope she made lots of spaghetti.
CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States.
The FBI reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email use.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by
I can do anything.
It was late in 2013 when the 2016 election began to get talked about. The people were wondering who was going to run.
And other news outlets have already started speculating about who the contenders are for the next presidency, despite the fact that we've only reached 100 days into this president's term.
It seemed that the general consensus for the Democrats was that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton would run and likely become the nominee, even though she hadn't announced candidacy.
Now, Secretary Clinton says she hasn't made up her mind about whether she's running yet, but methinks she doth not make up her mind yet too much.
There was also talk about Vice President Joe Biden running for president on the Democratic ticket.
I haven't made that decision, and I don't have to make that decision for a while.
The Republicans were nearly certain that Florida Governor Jeb Bush, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and many other senators and governors were going to run for office, as the Republicans were unhappy with President Obama's job and wanted to be back in power.
But the sad reality is we got to this point because of the poor, careless foreign policy decisions that have been made by the administration.
Obama's approval rating had been slowly decreasing throughout 2013, dropping to 41% by December. It wasn't until 2014 that Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders started to consider a run for president.
Personal story segment tonight. Just about everybody believes Hillary Clinton will be the Democratic nominee for president in 2016, but there are some on her left that may give a challenge. One of those may be Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont.
Bernie Sanders considered himself a socialist.
You are a socialist. What does that mean?
What it means is that we have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, where higher education is free, where they have a strong child care program, where they don't have the massive type of income and wealth inequality that we have in the United States of America.
In late 2014, Jim Webb became the first candidate to form an exploratory committee for a presidential campaign.
I have decided to launch an exploratory committee to examine whether I should run for president in 2016.
Jeb Bush soon followed, creating a PAC for his potential campaign. In 2012, Barack Obama fought a tough campaign against Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, and Barack Obama won the fight.
I have just called President Obama to congratulate him on his victory.
Many Republicans were wondering whether or not Romney would run again in 2016. In January of 2015, he officially declined.
After putting considerable thought into making another run for president, I've decided it's best to give other leaders in the party the opportunity to become our next nominee.
In March of 2015, Texas Senator Ted Cruz became the first candidate to officially announce their candidacy in the 2016 Many politicians from both parties followed Cruz and announced their candidacies. In May, Jeb Bush was asked a question about his brother and former President George W. Bush's decision to enter and invade Iraq. He stumbled on the question and ended up giving many different answers throughout the week.
Knowing what we know now, would you have authorized the invasion?
I would have, and so would have Hillary Clinton, just to remind everybody, and so would have almost everybody.
So in other words, if in 2020 hindsight, you would make a different decision.
Yeah, I don't know what that decision would have been. That's a hypothetical, but the simple fact is mistakes were made.
I heard whatever I heard, it was translated, knowing what you knew then, what would you do?
Knowing what we know, what would you have done? You will not.
Republican rivals attacked him for the answer.
Would you have authorized the invasion of Iraq?
Of course not.
President of the United States, I wouldn't have gone to war.
In May and June of 2015, neurosurgeon Ben Carson, former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina, and real estate mogul Donald Trump announced their candidacies for president for the Republican Party. Donald Trump got the most attention, especially for his comments in his...
A great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people.
That are and rapists. And, I mean, they're coming into this country. Mexico treats us as though we are stupid people.
Thought that Trump was running as a joke.
You read through the news and it's just so dry, you can't even begin to other days.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
That's right, everybody.
People who legitimately supported Trump were laughed at.
Which Republican candidate?
Severing ties with the Donald.
NBC Universal said today it is cutting ties with Trump, dropping his Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants.
Later on, Trump made a harsh comment about Arizona Senator John McCain.
He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
McCain wasn't hurt himself, but he thought that Trump should apologize to the people that he did offend.
Donald Trump owe you an apology.
No, I don't think so, but I think he may owe an apology to those who have sacrificed in conflict.
So how are the candidates doing in the polls at this point? On the Republican side, Donald Trump was in the lead, with Jeb Bush in a close second. Scott Walker was in third, and the other candidates trailed behind. Lead, getting Bernie Sanders in second, and Joe Biden in third. Rest and distant last.
That's why I'm just taking my mission tonight. 1% in the poll. Wouldn't that be amazing?
With 18 debates. The first Republican debate took place in Cleveland and was hosted by Fox News. The first question already divided Trump from the rest of the candidates, and he was attacked by other candidates on the stage.
Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Again, we're looking for you to raise your hand now. Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump.
I cannot say I have to respect it's not me. If I do win, and I'm leading by quite a bit, that's what I want to do. We want to win, and we will win. But I want to win as the Republican. I want to run as the Republican nominee. He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's already hedging his bet on the Clintons, okay?
After that, Megyn Kelly asked Trump a question regarding women.
Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like contempt of the man we should elect as president?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been...
Trump responded to this viciously after the debate.
I have no respect for her. She's very you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever, but she was, in my opinion, she was...
We had a legitimate beef about the questions that were asked. I'm curious, though. I mean, obviously it's not in Fox News' best interest to be in a war with you. It's not in your best interest to be in a war with Fox News.
The fact is that I was treated well by Fox, and that's all right, because look what happens. I don't understand it myself. I mean, I have double-digit leads in every poll. The fact is she asked me a very inappropriate question. She should really be apologizing to me. You want to know the truth?
I just got back from a weekend at the beach with my husband and my 3 kids. Apparently, Mr. Trump thought the question I asked was unfair and felt I was attacking him. I felt he was asking a tough but fair question. We agreed to disagree. Mr. Trump did interviews over the weekend that attacked me personally. Mr. Trump is an interesting man who has captured the attention of the electorate. That's why he's leading in the polls. Trump, who is the front runner, will not apologize. And I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism. So I'll continue doing my job without fear or
who's actually filed applications under the Patriot Act. Ever for protecting the lives and the safety of the American people. We have to give more tools to our folks to be able to do that, not fewer, and then trust those people and oversee them.
I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from innocent Americans. The Fourth Amendment was what we fought the revolution over.
Megyn, that's a completely ridiculous answer. I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from other people. How are you supposed to know, Megyn?
Use the Fourth
What are you supposed
Amendment.
to? How are you supposed
Use
to?
the Fourth
no, I'll
Amendment.
tell you how you
Get a warrant.
Let me tell you something.
Get
you go
a judge to sign
when
a warrant.
Senator.
Every time you did a case, you got a warrant from a judge. I'm talking about searches without warrants, indiscriminately of all American records. That's what I want to end. I don't trust President Obama with our records. I know you gave him a big hug. If you want to give him a big hug again, go right ahead.
It had been discovered that she had been using a private email server during her tenure as Secretary of State. She was caught making contradictory statements.
I carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of 2.
So I have an iPad, a mini iPad, an iPhone, and a BlackBerry.
Even private server, which was allegedly less secure than a Gmail account.
The question is whether classified information was ever put at risk because of her unusual use of the server in her home.
In the second Republican debate, Trump was asked a question.
In an interview last week in Rolling Stone magazine, Donald Trump said can you imagine that, the face of our next president? Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about this.
Mr. Trump said he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
She's got a beautiful face, and I think she's a beautiful woman.
Trump's views on illegal immigration were emphasized when Jeb Bush's wife was brought into the conversation.
Governor Bush, Mr. Trump has suggested that your views on immigration are influenced by your Mexican-born wife. Did Mr. Trump go too far in invoking your wife?
Fantastic.
Her, and this
She
is
is
a total
absolutely the love of my life,
mischaracterization
and
of what
she's
I
right
said.
here. And when I
Good.
special and make us great
Said
inside of this.
that they come into our country as an act of love. With all of the problems that we have in so many instances, we have wonderful people coming in. But with all of the problems, this is not an act of love. But weak on immigration, we're going to get my vote.
The subject of marijuana was also discussed.
I think one of the great problems and what the American people don't like about politics is hypocrisy. People who have one standard for others and not for
An opportunity to respond. Do you want to identify that person?
Well, I think if we left it open, we could see how many people smoked pot in high school.
Is there somebody you were specifically thinking of?
Well, you know, the thing is,
He was talking about me.
Yeah, I was talking
That's
about.
what I thought, but I wanted him to say it.
I wanted to make it easier for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just did.
Governor Bush, please.
So 40 years ago, I smoked marijuana, and I admit it. I'm sure that other people might have done it and may not want to say it in front of 25 million people. My mom's not happy that I just did.
The thing is that in Florida, Governor Bush campaigned against medical marijuana. That means that a small child like Morgan East that has 500 seizures a day, is failing on 9 traditional medications, is not allowed to use cannabis oil, and that if they attempt to do that in Florida, they will take the child away, they will put the parents in jail.
It was the first step towards getting to a Colorado place. And as a citizen of Florida, I voted no.
In the first Democratic debate, a major topic of discussion was gun control.
Which is it? Shield the gun companies from lawsuits or not?
Let's begin, Anderson, by understanding that Bernie Sanders has a D- voting record from the NRA. Let's also understand that back in 1988, when I first ran for the United States, the people of the state of Vermont, a state which has virtually no gun control, I think that a gun shop in the state of Vermont that sells legally a gun to somebody, and that somebody goes out and does something crazy. In abetting that, of course, we should take action.
Secretary Clinton, is Bernie Sanders tough enough on guns?
No, not at all. I think that we have to look at the fact that we lose 90 people a day from gun violence. This has gone on too long, and it's time supports background checks, and even the majority. Senator Sanders did vote 5 times against more than 2 million prohibited.
Hillary's email scandal was also brought up.
You are going to be testifying before Congress next week about your emails. What does that say about your ability to handle far more challenging crises as president?
Well, I've taken responsibility for it. I did say it was a mistake. What I did was allowed by the State Department, but it wasn't the best choice. But tonight, I want to talk not about my emails, but about what the American people want from the next president of the United States.
Let me say this. Let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the Secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too. Me too.
Enough of the emails. Let's talk about the real issues facing America.
After that debate, Joe Biden.
As my family and I have worked through the grieving process, I've said all along,
Donald Trump and Ted Cruz were considered the winners of the debate. This debate was the first major time that the media had come under fire from the Republican Party. Ted Cruz attacked the moderators during the debate.
You know, let me say something at the outset. The question... Why have your numbers fallen? How about talking about the substantive issues people?
So this is
And
a
let me
question
be
about
clear.
the debt limit, which you have 30 seconds left to answer, should you choose to do so.
And nobody watching the moderators has any intention of voting in a Republican primary. The questions that shouldn't be trying to get people to tear into each other. It should be, what are your substantive solutions to people who
I
are
just want the record to
Let me tell you how the question is. Let me tell you how that. We're moving on.
Discussed the subject of fantasy football with the debate moderators.
And there should be some regulation. I have no clue whether the federal government's the proper place. My instinct is to say hell no, just about everything about the federal government.
Hold on a second. I need to interject. Carl, are we really talking? So here's,
Carl, are we
let me say
really
this.
talking involved in fantasy football? We have people out of work. We have ISIS and Al Qaeda attacking us, and we're talking about fantasy football. Can we stop? Seriously. How about this? How about we get the government to do what they're supposed to be doing? Secure our borders, protect our people, and support American values and American families. Enough on fantasy football. Let people play. Who cares?
In early November, the political insiders of the Republican Party were not doing as well as the political outsiders. Donald Trump and Ben Carson were heavily leading in the polls, with Jeb Bush coming in as low as 4%. A major subject of the second Democratic debate was terrorism, strongly due to the terrorist attacks that occurred in Paris the day before.
This is the new sort of challenge, the new sort of threat that does in fact require new thinking. As a former mayor and a former governor, there was never a single day, John, when I went to bed or woke up without realizing that this could happen in our own country.
Well, John, I think that we have to look at ISIS as a leading threat of this international terror network. It cannot be contained, it must be defeated.
Let me concur with you and with all Americans who are shocked and disgusted by what we saw in Paris yesterday. Together, leading the world, this country will rid our planet of this barbarous organization called ISIS.
In the fourth Republican debate, Trump defended his wall proposal.
We are a country of laws. We need borders. We will have a wall. The wall will be built. The wall will be successful. And if you think walls don't work, all you have to do is ask Israel. The wall works. Believe me. Properly done. Believe me.
Can you just send 5 million people back with no effect on the economy?
To bring people, you're going to have to send people out. We're a country of laws. We either have a country or we don't have a country. We are a country of laws. They have to go out and they'll come back. Go out and hopefully they get back. We have no choice if we're going to run our country properly and if we're going to be a country.
In early December, Trump announced his plan to ban all Muslims from entering the United States.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
The ban was opposed by Democrats and Republicans alike.
Would you be comfortable letting them in?
Well, it depends on who they are, but it wouldn't be a religious test. Look, the King of Saudi Arabia, a strong ally of the United States, his son attends Georgetown University, so he's not going to be allowed in, and what is that going to do to our relations with an important ally in the region?
Well, it's totally contrary to our values as Americans. We have in our Bill of Rights respect for the freedom of religion. Muslim Americans have made extraordinary contributions to our country.
Well, the word is temporarily, and I have many, many friends in this
people, and they actually, some of them, not all of them, I will tell you, some of them on some real vacation, but many of them called me and they said, "No, Donald, you're right. We have a problem. It's a problem."
Republican Democrat media inundated with calls claiming that what Trump said is dumb, stupid, reckless, dangerous, unconstitutional, while it is the law of the land.
Trump and Bush had an exchange regarding the ban during
Mr. Trump unhinged when he proposed banning non-American Muslims from
destroy ISIS in the caliphate. That should be our objective. The refugee issue will be solved if we destroy ISIS there. There for refugees and to build a military force. And all of that has to be done in concert with the Arab nations. And if we're going to ban all Muslims, how are we going to get them to be part of a coalition to destroy ISIS? We need to engage with the Arab world to make this happen. It is not a serious proposal to say that to the people that you're asking for their support, that they can't even come to the country to even engage in a dialogue with us. That's not a serious proposal. So Donald, is great at the one-liners, but he's a chaos candidate, and he'd be a chaos president. He would not be the commander-in-chief we need to keep our country safe.
Mr. Trump.
Solid person up here. I built a tremendous company, and all I want to do is make America great again. I don't want our country to be taken away from us, and that's what's happening. The policies that we've suffered. And Jeb, in all fairness, he doesn't believe that.
The ban was discussed at the third Democratic debate as well.
You have weighed in already on Donald Trump. You've weighed in on the proposed ban. But what would you say to the millions of Americans watching tonight who agree with him?
Well, I think a lot of people are under anxiety about what they're seeing. First, what they saw in Paris, now what they have seen in San Bernardino. And Mr. Trump has a great capacity to use bluster and bigotry to inflame people and to make them think there are easy answers to very complex questions. So what I would say is, number one, we need to be united against the threats that we face, making sure that Muslim Americans don't feel left out or marginalized at the very moment when we need their help.
Leading up to the Iowa caucuses, Ted Cruz's eligibility to run for president was questioned, as he was born in Canada to American citizens.
Do you believe Senator Ted Cruz is a natural-born citizen?
I don't know, to be honest, and I like him a lot. And I don't like the issue. I don't like even bringing it up. And, it wasn't me that brought it up. It was the Washington Post doing an interview.
They asked you a question.
One of the questions they asked me was this question. And, they went with it, and I wasn't very aggressive.
No matter, the question is quite clear. Born abroad is a natural born.
Declaratory judgment if I was Ted.
What does that mean?
It means you go to court.
Which court?
You go to federal court to ask for what's called a declaratory judgment. You go in seeking the decision of the court.
This was brought up at the next debate.
I'll start with you, Senator Cruz. Now, you are, of course, a strict constitutionalist. No one would doubt that. And as you know, the U.S. Constitution says only natural-born citizens are eligible for the office of President of the United States. But that fellow next to you, Donald Trump, and others, have said that being born in Canada means you are not natural-born, and that has raised questions about your eligibility. Do you want to try to close this topic once and for all tonight?
Well, Neil, I'm glad we are focusing on the important topics of the evening. I recognize that Donald is dismayed that his poll numbers are falling. But the facts and the law. A child of a U.S. citizen born abroad is a natural-born citizen. If a soldier has a child abroad, that child is a natural-born citizen. That's why John McCain, even though he was born in Panama, was eligible to run for president. If an American missionary has a child abroad, that child is a natural-born citizen. That's why George Romney, Mitt's dad, was to run for president even though he was born in Mexico.
In Iowa, so, you shouldn't misrepresent how well you're doing with the polls. You don't have to say that. In fact, I was all for you until you started doing that, because that's a misrepresentation. Probably a 4 or 5% chance.
Bad experience with Megyn Kelly at the last Fox News debate.
Before we get to the issues, let's address the elephant not in the room tonight. Donald Trump has chosen not to attend this evening's presidential debate.
The Iowa caucuses occurred for both parties on February 1st, 2016. For the Republicans, the race was fairly close, but Ted Cruz ended up taking the cake. For the Democrats, the race was even closer. Hillary Clinton ended up getting the highest, but only 0.3% ahead of Bernie Sanders. After the caucuses, many candidates who did not perform well dropped out of the race. The 8th Republican debate brought a hefty argument between Chris Christie and Marco Rubio.
And let's dispel once and for all with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
You have not been involved in a consequential decision. You had to be held accountable. You just simply haven't. And the fact is, when you talk about Hezbollah Sanctions Act that you list as one of your accomplishments, it just did, you weren't even there to vote for it.
I think the experience is not just what you did, but how it worked out. Under Chris Christie's governorship of New Jersey, they've been downgraded 9 times in their credit rating. This country already has a debt problem. We don't need to add to it by electing someone who has experience at running up and destroying the credit rating of his state. But I would add this. Let's dispel with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
You see, everybody, I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information. Marco, the thing is, when you're a governor of a state, the memorized 30-second speech where you talk about how great America is at the end of it doesn't solve one problem for one person.
Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason why this campaign is so important. Because I think this notion, I think this is an important point.
The New Hampshire primaries occurred on February 9th. Unlike Iowa, New Hampshire was not a close race. Donald Trump won easily for the Republicans, and Bernie Sanders won easily for the Democrats. Both candidates won every county. The 9th Republican debate featured Donald Trump attacking Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was the beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
I could care less about the insults that Donald Trump gives to me. It's blood sport for him. He enjoys it, and I'm glad he's happy about it. But I am sick and tired of him going after my family.
Pope Francis then criticized Trump for his wall proposal.
E poi una persona che pensa soltanto in fare muri, sia dove sia, e non fare ponti, non è cristiano.
The South Carolina Republican primaries were a winner-take-all scenario. Donald Trump won the primary. On the same day, the Nevada Democratic caucuses occurred, and Hillary Clinton won them. A week later, Hillary Clinton also won the South Carolina Democratic primary. Jeb Bush suspended his campaign after losing South Carolina.
But the people of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina have spoken, and I really respect their decision. So tonight, I am suspending my campaign.
March 1st brought the first Super Tuesday. For the Republicans, Trump won the most states, Ted Cruz won 3 states, and Rubio only got Minnesota. For both parties, Texas was the most important. Being his home state, Cruz got the overwhelming majority. For the Democrats, Clinton got 7 states and Sanders got 4. After Super Tuesday, the delegate standings were as follows. By about 100 delegates. Rubio had 113 delegates, and Kasich in a distant last with only 27. For the Democrats at this time, Hillary Clinton had over double the delegates that Bernie Sanders had. This was mainly due to the much higher amount of superdelegates that Clinton received. Mitt Romney then made a speech criticizing Donald Trump.
If we Republicans choose Donald Trump as our nominee, the prospects for a safe and prosperous future are greatly diminished. He inherited his business. He didn't create it. His domestic policies would lead to recession.
Next came the 11th Republican debate. Trump and Rubio had an exchange about Rubio's aggressiveness during his campaign.
You've mocked Mr. Trump's tan. You've made fun of his spelling. You called him a con artist. You suggested he wet himself backstage at the last debate, along with other vulgar jokes and jabs. So what happened?
Yeah, you know, Brett, let me say something. This campaign for the last year, Donald Trump has basically mocked everybody with personal attacks. He's done so to people that are sitting on the stage today. He's done so about people that are disabled. He's done it about every other candidate in this race. So if there's anyone who's ever deserved to be attacked that way, it's been Donald Trump for the way he's treated people over the last campaign.
I also happen to call him a lightweight, okay, and I have said that. So I would like to take that back. He's really not that much of a lightweight. And as far as, and I have to say this, he hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee. All right. Okay. Moving on.
Similar to the first Republican debate, each candidate was asked whether or not they'd support the Republican nominee no matter what.
Senator Rubio, yes or no?
I'll support the Republican nominee.
Senator Cruz, yes or no? You will support Donald Trump?
Yes, because I gave my word that I would.
I will support whoever is the Republican nominee for president.
Even if it's not me?
The answer is yes, I will.
Afterwards, John Kasich complained about his lack of support during his campaign.
Look, I got no coverage. From the time I announced in New Hampshire, I got no coverage.
You got no coverage tonight. In
Well,
the first half an hour of this debate, we saw you twice. You're not exciting out there. When you have Rubio and Trump calling each other names, all right, referring to various body parts, and then you are saying, you know, I worked with President Reagan and we balanced the budget. Who are they gonna put on TV?
But Bill, you know, what one of the executives in broadcasting said, you know, we used to believe in freedom of the press, now we believe in freedom of the purse. And you know what? I'm just not going to take that.
Later, more primaries and caucuses were held, with Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and the majority of the wins. The 7th Democratic debate focused on the Flint water crisis.
It was beyond belief that children in Flint, Michigan, in the United States of America in the year 2016 are being poisoned. So I believe the governor of this state should understand that his dereliction of duty was irresponsible. He should resign.
I know the state of Michigan has a rainy day fund for emergencies. What is more important than the health and well-being of the people, particularly children? It is raining lead in Flint, and the state is derelict in not coming forward with the money that is required.
The Michigan primary occurred on March 8th. Donald Trump emerged victorious on the Republican side. The race was extremely close for the Democrats, but Bernie Sanders took the cake. There was a protest against a Donald Trump rally in Chicago on March 11th. It resulted in Trump canceling the rally.
This is a Trump supporter here, and these are folks that are opposed. They've been having debates on the street all night.
Fox News, Fox News, Fox News, Fox News.
You've been having
Fox News, Fox News, Fox News, Fox News, Fox News.
Can you say something
Fox
about
News.
why you're
Fox
here
News.
tonight?
I'm here because
I'm proud to be a Chicagoan because Chicago does not like Donald Trump and his ideas, and I'm very proud to be a Chicagoan today. You can pan the camera around and see how many people are opposed to Donald Trump in the city of Chicago. I'm very proud to be a Chicagoan today.
Thank you. And I want to listen to
UIC student. That's college today.
I'm a UIC alumni. You worse.
All right. Let's try to keep the language good. But these kinds of debates, Megan, have been going on the streets of Chicago all night tonight.
The March 15th primaries were very important for both parties. Florida was perhaps the most important. Hillary Clinton won the race for the Democrats, and Trump won for the Republicans. The Florida race was winner-take-all for the Republicans, which rewarded Trump 99 delegates. The Ohio race was also winner-take-all for the Republicans. Being his home state, John Kasich took the cake. Hillary Clinton won for the Democrats. Rubio suspended his campaign after losing his home state.
While it is not God's plan that I be president in 2016 or maybe ever, and while today
Later, Trump tweeted an insulting picture of Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi. Cruz responded viciously.
I don't get angry often. But you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
After that, Breitbart journalist Michelle Fields accused Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski of assaulting her.
Yeah, he just like threw you up.
I can't believe he just did that. That was so hard. Oh my, was that Corey?
Yeah, like what threat were you?
That was insane.
Yeah.
You should have felt how hard. Oh my gosh, I've never had anyone do that for a campaign.
Can I put it in my story?
Yeah, go for it.
This CCTV footage shows what happened. In the end, charges were dropped against the manager. The Colorado and Louisiana Republican primaries were controversial because Trump won the popular vote, yet Cruz ended up receiving the delegates.
You said the nominating system in Colorado was, quote, rigged, disgusting, and dirty. You called it a corrupt deal full of... Ted Cruz is saying, you're just being a whiner. I mean, the bottom line is, the rules are the rules. Didn't you just get outplayed on the ground?
No, I don't think so. Look, first of all, I watched Ted Cruz, and I watched him very strongly say, well, he's been winning, but, I've won 22 states, and he's won 10, and we're really way up on votes, in terms of the voters, which to me is very important, but it's never talked. I'm millions of votes ahead of him, and as you know, I'm hundreds of delegates ahead of him. But the Colorado thing was very, very unfair, and I thought Louisiana was very unfair. I won Louisiana. I won it easily.
So you won the popular vote.
I
he
won
got
the
more
popular
delegates
vote, and because of all this shenanigans that goes on. And this
but
is
you call them shenanigans. Those are the rules, and didn't you know those?
You know why the rules? I know the rules very well, but I know that it's stacked against me.
The New York primary was correctly expected to be a Trump-Clinton victory. Ted Cruz was despised by New York Republicans due to his comments earlier in the year about New Yorkers.
Do you remember during the debate when he started lecturing me on New York values like we're no good?
But everyone understands that the values in New York City are socially liberal or pro-abortion or pro-gay marriage, focused around money and the media. Not a lot of conservatives come out of Manhattan. I'm just saying.
The battle for the Northeast occurred on April 26th. Donald Trump won every county in every state on the Republican side, and Hillary Clinton performed well for the Democrats. After that, Trump accused Clinton of playing the women's card.
She's playing the women's card. By the way, if she didn't play the women's card, she would have no chance. I mean, zero of winning. She's playing the women's card.
Well, if fighting for women's health care and paid family leave and equal pay is playing the woman card, then deal me in.
The Indiana primary came as the last major primary for the Republicans. Trump eviscerated the other candidates in the Republican Party, and Sanders won narrowly for the Democrats. Cruz and Kasich suspended their campaigns, making Trump their presumptive Republican nominee for president.
And so, with a heavy heart, but with boundless optimism for the long-term future of our nation, we are suspending our campaign.
And as I suspend my campaign today, I have renewed faith, deeper faith, that the Lord will show me the way forward and fulfill the purpose of my life. Thank you, and God bless.
Trump held a rally in San Diego, and many people were hurt in the protests outside.